Week 1 of Phase 3 of Broncos OTAs is in the books. The helmets were back on. We saw some familiar faces and some new players putting on the orange and blue for the first time. Welcome into Broncos Weekend, everybody. I'm Matt Boyer. Billy Thompson, the Ring of Famer, will be along in just a moment. But as always, we start in studio with the Hall of Famer, Steve Atwater. Steve, you were back out in the glorious Colorado weather for OTAs. What did you like? What did you see? Just give me your overall first impressions from this past week.
Hey, man, we had a great turnout. A lot of guys out there running around, catching balls, covering. A lot of new faces in the building, on the field. Great. A lot of potential out there.
Steve, the QB's garnered a lot of attention, and we will be getting to them shortly. But I want to start with a guy that we haven't heard from in almost 9 months, and that is Von Miller.
I'm excited to be with the guys and just be in the mix again and have my helmet on. Feeling how I'm feeling right now, I feel great. You know, I still got a little bit more to go, but that little bit to go, I had to get that on the football field. Everything that I could possibly do. And physical training, rehab, and working with Vince and all the guys in the training room, I've done that to the max. And this last little bit, I had to get on the football field. You don't know when you're going to put on your cleats for the last time. And I remember when I got hurt last year, I just had these memories of dang, like I was sitting on the turf and I was like, bro, is this it? Is this my last play as a Denver Bronco? And I grinded and I worked hard to kind of put that away. And I never take that for granted. Every time I go out there, I feel blessed, and it just means so much more to to fight back from injury, especially this late in my career, to fight back from injury and get out on the football field and be back and be present. So it means so much more. And all the words that Ross Smith said to us today, they just hit home. I'm still running around here beating everybody. So I feel like 30 what? So, until I see otherwise, and I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep going.
Steve, when Von talked this week, he was reflective. He mentioned Rod Smith talking to the team. We just talked to Rod last week, as a matter of fact. When you think about where he is mentally, physically he looks good, but where do you think Von is mentally coming back?
Well, I think he is right where he was when he got injured last year, and that's in a great place in terms of mentally knowing that he's a leader. Still has in his mind the pictures of seeing Kobe Bryant and what he did, and I think it was Michael Jordan was the other person that he mentioned. Just using those guys for inspiration and saw how they led. He wants to be that same type of leader, and I thought he was on track. Last year to have an amazing season. Unfortunately, it was cut short. I think he's picked right back up where he left off.
When we talked about Von's option getting picked up, we mentioned a lot about dollars, a lot about years and stats, but we didn't really talk much about Von's impact as a leader or, his energy. How much can his energy improve this Broncos team in 2021? How much is that needed for this defense?
Well, I think it's needed. You heard, I think, Melvin Gordon say earlier that, hey, when Von Miller got hurt, that just kind of, took the life out of them. They're like, man, I can't believe, Von Miller is hurt of all guys. So, his presence is big time. His production is needed. And just him being in the locker room, guys, knowing how great of a person and a player he is, knowing that he's on the field, they get a chance to see how he works. And, he has, like I said, an even better attitude towards working now. It's all positive. And, these young guys, they need that. They need a great role model on the field, and he is just that.
Jeff Legwold, earlier this week, Steve, on Broncos Beat, told Alexis Perry that defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators around the league are looking forward to seeing Von Miller and Bradley Chubb back. I know we've talked about cover guys versus edge rushers, and you need those edge rushers. So what are you expecting from two of the best ones in the AFC in Von Miller and Bradley Chubb this year?
Okay, so if Von Miller and Bradley, if you guys are listening to this, don't listen. Turn off right now because I don't want to jinx you. But me personally, I think they can get 25 sacks between them. At minimum 25 sacks between them two. Minimum.
Steve, that's a high bar.
You heard it here, man. If they're healthy, they're on the field, 25 sacks, minimum.
Steve, Von Miller turned some heads this week, but another guy turning some heads that we have to get to was Pat Surtain.
This Patrick Surtain II, this PS2 guy, he's the real deal, man.
He's great, man. He's about as tall as me. I was out there talking with him, and I was kind of tall, man. And built very similarly. He's a big guy, so and moves really well, like just really fluid movement.
There's a couple of times where I look over my shoulder, like just to see who's out there at receiver, left and right, checking offensive formation, and I see this guy standing out there. I'm like, bro, this guy's taller than me. Is he supposed to be inside? He's supposed to be rushing, right? This guy's supposed to be rushing. He's the real deal. He's a specimen. He has great feet.
I think he's got an NFL demeanor, especially the type of demeanor you need to play corner in this league. I think he has some versatility, which we're going to need to take advantage of. So everything's been good so far with Patrick, but we were expecting that.
Man, I'm really excited for him. I was really excited we got him, and I'm really excited for him, and I'm excited for us to do something special this year.
Steve, PS2 didn't meet the media, but his teammates did plenty of talking for him. How impressed were you when you saw him out there with the veterans, and did it change any of your expectations for him this year?
No, not really. It just kind of confirmed everything. He looks comfortable out there. It looks like he knows what he's doing. He's in the right place, and he's fast.
He's fast.
And other guys are impressed by his size. I got a chance to meet him on his press day down here after the draft, and we're eye to eye, and I'm 6'4", and he's right at 6'2", man. Just a great size and a great presence on the field. But when you have a guy that's that tall and that lanky, long arms with the speed to go along with it, that can be a dangerous combination.
There's no wasted movement with him either, Steve. It's super fluid, and you don't really see that in young guys his age. You see that a lot of times with the vets, but not so much in those rookies. How hard is it going to be for Vic Fangio to keep him off the field? Because you got Ronald Darby, you got Bryce Callahan, Kyle Fuller. That DB's room is going to be stacked. How do you get him on the field?
I don't know. You find a way, though. I mean, the best players are going to be on the field, and I have a feeling that he's going to find a way to be on the field a lot. And it's a great problem to have for a head coach is in defensive coaches is having too many great players. Now, the players, they may not like it sometimes because they may not play as much as they want to, but I got an inkling that Pat Surtain II is going to play quite a bit this year.
I think Broncos country is very much looking forward to seeing PS2 on the field. When we come back on Broncos Weekend, Teddy Bridgewater was in orange and blue for the first time this week. We'll hear from he and Drew Lock after the break. Welcome back to Broncos Weekend, everybody. Okay, Steve, defense is covered. Let's get to the offense. Your overall first impressions, big picture.
Well, right now I think we got a little bit of a quarterback battle. That's, going to take a while to sort itself out. I think Drew Lock is honed in, locked in. I think Teddy Bridgewater in a new environment, learning a new offense, and they seem to be working well together right now. So it's going to be fun to watch this develop over the coming months.
Steve, this was the first time we heard from Teddy Bridgewater in orange and blue, but it was also the first time we heard from Drew Lock in almost 9 months.
Come in, you're going to compete. You're going to do everything you can to be the best quarterback for this team, and that's the mindset that I have right now. And it's going to be fun. I'm excited to be able to go out there, have this competition, push myself to a whole different level that maybe I wouldn't have gotten to without this. I want this team to be good. I want myself to be really good. But really, I wanted nothing to be able to look back on and regret. I was going to give everything I had this offseason before, but especially this one, to be able to come in and help this team get to the playoffs, help this city come back. It was a rough year last year with COVID, and no one being at games, and just a lot of stuff got thrown our way. And I took all that from last year, put it into this one off-season plan to be able to get a little fire behind the city and this team and get this team back to where it needs to be. Teddy's been great. He's seen a lot of great quarterbacks, and he's even played a lot of ball himself. But I feel like I've got enough knowledge now to where I can start talking these things out, talking with him, and just being able to bounce ideas off of him, which is nice.
Very excited to be here. Looking forward to this opportunity that's ahead of me. Every day I wake up, I consider myself competing for my job. I think that's the mindset of everyone who plays this game. Whether I was penciled in as a starter or I had to compete, my mindset is it's a competition. Whenever you get into a situation, you always tell yourself you want to be the guy who can be there for a while. And of course, that's my mindset. But at the same time, I got to take it one day at a time and continue to be, the best teammate that I can be today and let tomorrow take care of itself.
Steve, this QB battle, It's going to dominate the conversation until it gets resolved. So we got to talk about it. I'll start with a newcomer. What stood out to you about Teddy Bridgewater's game in person versus what you've seen on film?
Well, I've kind of felt like he was more of a touch passer. He wasn't drilling the balls. It didn't look like he had as much zip on the ball as Drew Lock did. That could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. You never know. But he has been an accurate passer historically, so I'm expecting that to be a good thing as we move along. But yeah, he looked good out there. Looked comfortable with what they're having him do so far. So again, this is going to be fun watching the progression.
The touch and the way he gets the ball out, Steve, his decisiveness, I was really impressed with. The greats all have it, Steve. Manning, Rodgers, Brady, the timing. You don't necessarily need to have a cannon if everything's on time and everything's on the money, and I think that's going to be a calling card for him. And if Locke can take that from his game, that's only going to improve and raise the bar for whoever starts in week one. Let's get to Locke real quick. There was a no-nonsense look from Drew Lock that I saw when he met the media. I thought it was interesting to compare and contrast that to some of the more fun moments that we've seen with Drew Lock. How do you think he's approaching these next few weeks, and what do you think are the biggest gains he can make before we hit the summer break?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think that he knows that he's in a battle, and, people, when they're in a battle versus when they're not in a battle, are a little bit more attentive and a little bit more alert, on edge, the whole 9 yards, and he's just that way. And we know that he has the arm. We know that he can be mobile in the pocket. So it's really a matter of putting everything together, and proving to the coaches that he can play a good, solid game, and be consistent. That's one of the things that was frustrating last year is, to see him play well in one game and then come back the next game and then go back to some of the things that he did earlier in the season, some of the same mistakes that he had made earlier in the season. That's what he's going to have to eliminate those mistakes, eliminate throwing in the double coverage, getting out of the pocket too soon, not looking at your receivers, throwing to the open guy. Those are the main things he's going to have to work on and improve over this offseason. But I think, being in this offense a second year is definitely going to help.
Whether it's Drew Lock or it's Teddy Bridgewater, both of them are going to be looking for number 14. And we finally heard from number 14 from the first time this week.
For myself, I'm just grateful for the opportunity, for the chance to be able to go back out there. I hear all the stories about how, ACLs used to be, career-ending type injuries and this and that. And, then with technology, go in and get the surgery and see the progress day to day and, month to month, see all these different things, being able to progress through, be able to be out on the grass, doing individual with the guys, being able to run routes with the guys, being able to be out there and just talk to them and coach them up here and ask them, why, what made you do this here? Just being able to be out there hands-on with the dudes, man, it's been so much fun, and it's definitely something that I'm very grateful for sure. I don't see myself coming back and having any setbacks, any hiccups, anything that's gonna be like, oh, I can't do that in my game anymore. Like I said, I've been working my butt off in rehab and really attacking it so that, like I said, I can come back and not just be, at the standard that I was before I got hurt. I'm trying to exceed that even more so. So yeah, I don't see myself coming back and losing any of those things that I was able to do. If anything, we're gonna be adding to that.
Steve, the ACL injury that Cortland referenced coming back from, he mentioned Vaughn being an inspiration, Adrian Peterson being an inspiration. Where do you think, how mentally tough does Cortland need to be to kind of get through that and then play at a level that he's aiming to play at this year?
I mean, you got to be extremely mentally tough. Because when you have an injury like that, and unfortunately I've never had an injury like that, but, from guys that I've talked to, just, the fear of that happening again and you making a plan and, just the strength not being there in the knee is real. It's a real fear. And many times guys just won't push it enough to get to the level that they were. But Cortland's already talking about not only getting to the level that he was at, he's talking about surpassing that level and being at that level when he gets back. And, I say fortunately he got injured early in the season. Now, obviously, it's not fortunate that he got injured, but fortunately it was early in the season where he's had more time to rehab, and so hopefully he'll be nice and strong and ready to go and be able to do all the things that he did before he got injured.
For himself personally, he mentioned being able to be a sounding board for the guys like Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, and he wasn't able to do that as much last year because it's different when you're in the meeting room 2 days later versus in the moment, boom, you're back in the huddle telling a guy, hey, look for this or look for that. How much do Jeudy and Hamler stand to gain this year from Cortland Sutton?
Oh, man, and a tremendous amount. And I thought that they were building a nice bond before Cortland got hurt, and so I know they feel much better having him in the room, a guy who's a veteran, a guy who's played at a high level, a guy who's a Pro Bowler, who has an amazing mindset about the game. They can only learn from it, and I think they're going to be much better by having him in the room on a full-time basis and having him on the field to kind of talk through things as adversity arises.
There's so much anticipation, Steve, surrounding this offense. So I know Broncos country bubbling with excitement. We've got to take a quick break, but when we come back on Broncos Weekend, Steve is chatting with Billy Thompson. He's joining Atwater's A-Team to give us his thoughts on this year's team, as well as when the Broncos might know this team is ready for a return to the playoffs. That's next. No one in Broncos history has started more consecutive games than Billy Thompson. The Ring of Famer's career has spanned some of the biggest moments in Broncos history. And this week on Atwater's A-Team, Steve and Billy are chatting about the 2021 Broncos and whether or not this year's squad is in for some big moments of their own.
I want to talk a little bit about this team and the players we have. Now, we got a bunch of weapons left and right on both sides of the ball. Who are you most excited to see, especially on let's talk about offense first. Who are you most excited to see on the offensive side?
Well, I'm excited to see a couple of people on the offensive side.
Okay.
And they both play the same position. Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock, because I think that's going to be the key. To me, you can't do anything until you establish who that's going to be. And on defense, I'm looking to see Von come back, Von Miller. I know he's hungry. He's been out for a little bit, and I'm looking for him to come back and just, explode. So it's going to be an interesting camp, definitely.
Yeah, and, I remember last year at training camp how excited everyone was for Von to come back, and then he had the injury. So,
right.
But he looks good so far out in the field. I think he and Bradley Chubb are up for a big year this year.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I'm really pulling for him, and I think that he means a lot to our defense. And I think him coming back and his leadership is going to be crucial for us to move forward, for sure.
Overall, what do you think this team needs to do to make it back to the P word, the playoffs this year?
Well, that's going to be a hard road. I mean, let's just face it. I don't think you do it unless you have a lot of things working for you. I'm talking about offensive, defensively, and special teams. One of the things that, to me, is that, and it's simple, we got to stop the run.
Right from the start.
Right from the start. We got to stop and run. And then when we get it, we got to run it.
Yeah.
In other words, I'm saying we got to run it when they know we're going to run it.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of things, will give us confidence. Hey, look, they know we're going to run the football, but let's run it down their throat anyway.
Yeah. Now, you played on several playoff teams. At what point in the season did you guys know that you were a playoff team? Did you know it in training camp, or was it the first quarter of the season? At what point do you know, like, hey, man, we got a great chance of doing this?
It's different for everybody when it happens. I think that the guys will know. I mean, it won't come overnight. It's going to be a process. Mm-hmm. But I think it'll be a point where, things will happen on the field where it brings them even closer together. And normally, I look at like the midway point, that bye week or a little bit before the bye week, because you're looking for the rest. Because you're a little banged up.
Down a little bit.
Yeah. you're a little banged up. But around that time, I think, they will kind of realize where they are, stay motivated, and keep fighting because we got some of the greatest fans, man, in the world. I mean, and they've seen a lot, and they expect a lot. And the fans are there because they know you're playing hard, you're playing your heart out for them. And I get excited even thinking about it, man.
Yeah, same here. Hey, well, all right, Billy. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. Man, you have always been one of the Broncos greats. Man that I've always looked up to, man. You've always been, so kind and giving with your time. And so I appreciate you, love you. And, hey, man, Mile High Salute. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos, Stevie.
Our thanks to the great Billy Thompson for taking time with us this week. That'll do it for us today on Broncos Weekend. Special thanks to the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater. I'm Matt Boyer. So long, Broncos country. We will see you next week.